Alrighty everyone, welcome back. We are now getting closer to the middle point of August of 2023, and given that there's a lot of things going on right now between Bob Iger and the Disney board and everything surrounding Snow White 2024, the Marvels, and let's not forget about other projects that are actually considered to be box office failures looming for Disney as we speak. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support, and let's get right into the subject, shall we? Now, we know that there's been a lot of drama surrounding Bob Iger and the board going into damage control over the Snow White remake. Now, we've talked about this many times that this movie in particular, it really takes away the spirit of the 1937 original, and as Rachel Zegler, the star of the film, said openly loud to everybody around the world that this movie is not 1937 anymore, it's a modern spin on things, that basically Snow White does not need a Prince Charming, she's not going to be saved by the prince, she's going to become a leader, you know, the list goes on. Now, we know that there's a lot of things here that a lot of people do not agree with. Now, there's been a lot of things happening behind closed doors involving the ongoing firings for Snow White. We're going to be diving into every single detail about this and what it really means for Bob Iger and his image as CEO over at Disney, because we already know that they're trying to hide the Seven Dwarfs from all of the promotional work for Snow White, which, by the way, you're going to begin to see looming in the next couple of months, so keep your eyes open for that. There's a lot of things coming our way. However, with Snow White 24 gaining much backlash and criticism after those leaked photos of the dwarfs surfaced, one major development surrounding this film has much to do with an update on the Snow White firings by the Disney board. Just recently, Disney decided to fire not only an entire marketing team, as we previously discussed, handling the promotion of the film, which includes various ways of advertising it, but that also they fired two trailer companies that were working on the official trailer footage, with a newly hired one now in place. With a Snow White sequel still on board and still greenlit by Bob Iger and Disney, that they plan to announce next year later on, recently they fired the 7 actors who portray the Seven Dwarfs from the upcoming Snow White sequel based on how the actors have been behaving and acting very aggressive against Disney behind the scenes and creating major issues. This is all rooted to how the actors are very unhappy with Disney's efforts to hide the Seven Dwarfs as much as possible from the trailer and even posters set to be released to the general public. Now, initially, the 7 actors were ready to return in the sequel to Snow White, a project that, by the way, is still currently happening as we speak. They were recently fired by Disney and replaced with female dwarf variants for the sequel film that are said to be inspired from the Dwarfs, which were the 7 dwarf cousins. Now, let me just stop here for one moment. Now, the thing that I have a problem with this is the fact that this goes to show you how ruthless Disney really is, if you think about it. How, you know, they have no shame, they don't really care about what they do, and they don't even care how they appear to these actors that are caught up in this mess with Snow White. Now look, as much as you may hate the design of the Snow White characters, or the 7 dwarf characters in this Snow White film, I think that we all also have to remember that these are actual people, human beings, portraying these roles that are being instructed by Disney what to do and how to do it in this film. Now look, we don't really know these actors too well. We don't know where their place is in Hollywood. You know, if they're trapped in the Hollywood bubble, maybe that's a different story where they're heavily defending this film, but seemingly they're not. They're actually very much against Disney, reportedly, about how this is actually creating so much backlash and how Disney has really been going all in on hiding them as much as possible from interviews, from anything related for the trailer up and coming, and now firing them from the already planned Snow White sequel, alright? So this just goes to show you that they don't have a care in the world about what happens to the 7 actors and what happens to them with the upcoming film, specifically on a personal level. They just care about the money. That's why they're hiding them. They're not doing it out of being genuine to protect them or to lessen the backlash against the actors. They're doing it to lessen the backlash against their product. That's all it is, nothing more. I mean, let's just be honest here. So here's the problem with this too, is that it goes to show you that Snow White 2024, the fact that a sequel is still greenlit, this is not surprising. This is nothing different than Bob Iger, and let's do a little recap quick. Nothing different than in November of 2017, during an earnings call, you guys may have tuned in back in the day, he actually announced a Rian Johnson trilogy ahead of The Last Jedi release date on December of 2017. And that is what really led a lot of people to believing that The Last Jedi must be that great because they announced, or they prematurely announced, an entire trilogy for Rian Johnson. That's why so many people went to go ahead and check out The Last Jedi, you know, very, very fast because they had a lot of confidence in it. So I think that they're trying to do the same thing here, and it's just not going to work because we all know what those photographs were all about and how Disney lied about it at first and then backtracked, made them look even more foolish. Now, next up, this is where it gets worse, is that this is specifically why the 7 actors have been instructed to not be seen in any interviews or give any interviews of or PR work for the film, since Disney instructed them, their agents and managers, that they are not allowed to make appearances ahead of their unveiling in the film as the new iteration of the 7 iconic dwarf characters. Even Gal Gadot reportedly tried to defend the 7 actors that were fired from appearing in a planned Snow White sequel that they were said to have signed up for already by contract, as Bob Iger wanted to give Snow White the Lion King treatment of making multiple movies, at the very minimum 2. 2 prequel films were cancelled, we talked about this, but the sequel still remains on their slate to be announced next year. Now again, we know that Disney has been revising their current slate of live-action movies getting adapted from the animated material. Sword in the Stone is still on, Lilo and Stitch is still going, Hercules as well, but they're all on development lockdown. Some of which that were cancelled includes Hunchback, that is no longer a thing. There was also a Ursula prequel film to The Little Mermaid, that was actually cancelled as well. And a sequel to The Little Mermaid is still in the cards, so it's similar to the Snow White situation. But there's a lot of things going on here. The fact that they let go of these 7 actors, they fired them because of their behavior, and not just because of their behavior, I think that they also did it because they realized that this movie is going to get so much heat from the general public to the point where they probably realized they can't even bring them back anyway. So they had to just lay them off and get rid of them. I think that just goes to show you that Disney just finds anybody who's expendable to fill some of these roles, and that's why you get a lot of these unknowns half the time for these Disney live-action remakes. That's just how I see things sometimes, and it's also a way for them to save money, mind you. If they got like a major star coming on to, let's say, as the main character, like the main character, it does cost more money, and I'm sure they weren't all that pleased about Gal having issues, because let's face it, she has a high status as an actress. So I would like to hear what you all have to say about the entire situation revolving around the 7 dwarfs, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.